start the ball rolling by putting a question to you, Richard. This session's been packed with information. It's going to take some time to digest it. Let's go to a practical consideration. Racing Touch, Racing Live. How do you make the decision in a practical sense to what to develop it for, in terms of whether it's iPad, tablet, and have you? What are the considerations?
Yeah, I think it all, again, starts with the customer. What form factor do our customer really use? When we actually started the journey, probably 2-3 years ago, and to go more mobile, honestly, in Hong Kong, and if you survey all our owners, our members, our top-end customers, iPad and iPhone is the way to go, the iOS interface. However, if you actually look at the trend in the last 24 months, the Android has been catching up quickly. So I think it's still right strategy for us to start with the iPhone, and then now we quickly have to move into the Android platform. And I think one thing which I think for a lot of wagering operator to note is the Android platform is actually much more friendly than the iOS Apple platform when it comes to wagering related applications. So that's one consideration. Another consideration is if you are going to do something which you need high security or you will use for a long time, and you do care about the user interface, then going with a native app would be very good. However, if you want something which is quick in and out, or you have a low cost budget, then maybe you can even consider a mobile web, essentially which is a web page with responsive design, i.e. not only can people look at it from the desktop computer, but it's actually very mobile friendly. So these would be the trade-off, but again, it all, I think, ultimately starts from what our customers want and what they need.
Thanks, Richard. Looking to the set of questions that I understand have been posed from the audience, one of them is to you, Scott, and it builds, I think, on something that Richard said in terms of, say, the cost of using traditional media and the advantages that digital media may have in both building a fan base and then communicating with it. You started out in life as a print journalist. Now you're responsible for a digital media strategy. For you and Everton, what's the balance now, and is it shifting over time?
Yes, it is shifting. It's actually shifted quite a lot in the last 12 months. Probably one of the biggest obstacles at Everton has been human, in terms of the people within the business sort of gaining an appreciation of the move to digital. Certainly, particularly from an area where they may have been more focused traditionally on sort of offline advertising. So until maybe the last 18 months at Everton, we worked very much, digital and marketing were separate in terms of the marketing exercises were done for campaigns offline, and then the digital team tried to mop it up and tried to integrate within the wider marketing campaign. Now it's much more cohesive in terms of the appreciation from the marketing side of the relevance of digital, because that's where the audience is. And because of the data, the improved data, where we've been able to actually illustrate the difference that engaging on digital can make. Because maybe 2 years ago, we all sensed that was the right way to go because everybody was using devices, but we weren't able to map more as effectively the revenue generation through digital. But now that we've got a closing the loop in terms of the digital user view and the user journey, we can now say that, as the professor explained, that somebody using a device, how they interact with it, what they do, at what point they click, at what point they purchase. So probably a long-winded answer to a very simple question. Yeah, it's basically moving from offline to online, but the move is happening quicker because we can now discern the value of that move to more digital platforms.
Just to follow up with that, there was a question that flashed on our screen, and I think this is relevant to the audience because they're listening to you and they're saying, Everton Football Club, number 5 in the Premier League, what are its resources, what are my resources, can I do this in my club? I mean, what sort of team do you have? What size?
In terms of the team that works, I've got 4 digital journalists, and they are journalists. They come from a journalistic background. They provide the content for the web platforms. and we've got a team of 3 video resources who look after our video content. But increasingly, that digital team of the team of journalists are having to expand their skill sets to understand the data and how to analyse it. We increasingly utilise third-party solutions to help us and for the marketing team. So in terms of the team that I work with, I've got seven who work beneath me.
Okay. Do we have a question from the audience? No? Well, I've got plenty here, so you can keep thinking. A question to you, Tom. In the 90s, I'm just going to take it from an Australian perspective. In the 90s, what we were told as racing administrators was that wagering is a mature market. And then in the 2000s, we were told that technology will be disruptive. We should be frightened of it. You plainly don't share those views.
Technology is some kind of evil. I completely disagree. I think that you've got to stand back and look at it as an opportunity to be exploited. The idea that racing is mature, well, that gets played out. It's very, very competitive. It's a form of entertainment. It's a form of sport. It's many, many things. But in no way, shape, or form do I think it has to be mature. There's an opportunity to exploit technology and put things into a modern context. There's all this discussion about generational change and how people think about things. I think a lot of what the club is doing is playing directly to that, putting it in terms of a modern way of thinking, a youthful way of thinking. When you look at a kid, suddenly the modern pacifier is mom's iPhone. It's grabbing a tablet. Kids learn how to drag and drop things, how to interact with touch screens, practically as they learn to talk. Then when you look at racing, deconstructing racing and making it so it's approachable, so you don't have to learn a new language, but rather a child becoming a teenager, becoming a 20-something-year-old young racing fan has an opportunity, embracing technology, to put things in the terms that they look at the rest of the world in. You look at the quartet, there are 24,024 possible outcomes in a 14-horse race. But that's a number that's irrelevant to a young racing fan that thinks in a drag-and-drop world. They have an opinion. They want to share it with their friends. And being able to use technology as a vehicle to express an opinion and participate in racing, I think that's what the club's doing. I think that's really a technology-enabled opportunity, not a challenge or a threat. Not using it as the threat.
Professor Nee, you set out the prescription. Step 1, the data is valuable, recognise that and collect as much as you can. But if we look at the phrase big data, to what extent is the defining characteristic of a successful strategy? Is volume all it's about, or is it also the accuracy and the variety of the data that you're collecting?
Okay, very good one. When the term big data was used, people try to ask how big is big. But to me, it's not important. It's the data which you can use to find the value. You know, people say 1 petabyte is big. This is really not that important. It's the data. Now, the reason I mentioned this the recommendation system is deep learning become feasible. Is we have sufficient large number of data to train the system make it work. So data are large enough, we can train, get useful value. And the horizon-wise, what? You never know the correlation between different data. So basically, you say we do, now we have one project to predict the PM 2.5. I don't know, Europe or US don't care. In China, PM 2.5 is very important. Now, we do prediction. Now, to make a PM 2.5 more accurate, older approach give a math model, doing computer simulation based on the flow of the weather, doing prediction. I said, no, this is not just because of the airflow, it's because of population. How many people, how many cars in this region will affect the PM 2.5? In other words, if I have weather data, I have the population data, I have the mobile phone location data, I have the taxi data, I can do better prediction. So that's the more the better, find the correlation.
And the question that was flashed on the screen went to the issue of what extent big data is really useful for product development and to what extent it could be used for marketing. But I think we've heard that from each of you, that it is very much part of defining what your market is and how you should communicate with it. There's a question here about the facilities refurbishment, building facilities that are relevant to perhaps, say, a younger audience. But the question that was put here, I think it's from South Africa, is how do you how do you share the secret that things have changed? How do you draw in the person that hadn't formerly thought, I'm a young person, racing is going to be interesting for me, we've got great new facilities. How do you share that? I suppose in part it's the Happy Wednesday experience, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the key for us would be the software layer that we put on top of our infrastructure investment. So by adding in the right thematic program, you're already getting the right bus, getting the right theme, may it be fashion, magic, or may it be like music, it already attracts the fan. And then the second thing that we do is just like the Everton Football Club, we also rely a lot on our own existing racing fans. And we create photo ops in the race course, let people take pictures and upload onto their Twitter, upload to an Instagram and Facebook, and the other fans see it. So I think for us, the secret of success would be on top of the infrastructure, which when we design, we do intensive understanding of customer. For all our venues, we actually create standards like the personal space ratio. And I can tell you, this might sound absurd to you, but we actually internally have standards. If you are a public mass customer, then each person, the personal space in a betting hall would be about 1.3 meters square. If you are one of our high-end, serious person who are really into betting, normally you don't want too many people sitting around to socialize. You actually want more personal space. Our ratio would be 3.0. So we do have standards like that when we design the venue. But the most important thing is once we get experience, of course, we are not going to advertise the fact that now you got, ladies and gentlemen, now you got 3.3 meters square in the race course per person. We will never say that. But through our social marketing, through social media, let people experience it, let them actually tweet it out, and that's how we get the crowd coming in.
Excellent. Well, audience, I think you've had a rare experience in terms of understanding this subject matter, and I'd like you to join me in thanking Richard and his panel for what was, I think, a very interesting session. Thank you.